Yeah, I just want to reiterate that we're definitely going to have lots of time after this to have conversation. What we're most interested in here is hearing from everybody in this room about what you think about this election, what you think about Donald Trump, and what you want to do going forward. So, my name is James Hoff. I'm a professor in the English department. I'm the faculty advisor for the Socialist Students Club. I'm also a member of Socialist Alternative, and like Juliet said, I'm going to talk just a little bit about how this came to pass. You know, how was it that this billionaire celebrity managed to become president of the United States, or president-elect of the United States? So, look, I want to begin on Wednesday morning, right? Because Wednesday morning, I think, is when many of us realized that our futures were going to be very different than we anticipated. So I woke up Thursday morning in shock. Wednesday morning rather, I woke up in shock. I spent a lot of the day in denial. By the end of the day, though, I was in the streets. By the end of the day, I was marching with thousands of people coming from Union Square to Trump Towers to show our anger at those results. And I was marching in a rally that had been organized just not even 18 hours previously by Socialist Alternative. That is an important lesson for us, I think, because in the mornings of Wednesday, October 9th, when it became clear that Clinton was going to lose, that Trump was going to be our next president, Socialist Alternative had the organization in place to begin to immediately call rallies and begin the fight back against Trump that we knew we had to do. And it's that kind of organization that we need. And there'll be lots of room for questions later. And it's that kind of organization that we need going forward. And so that's why we're here to talk about how can we build those kinds of organizations to resist Trump. But what I'm going to talk about is, in order for us to know how to go forward, we have to reflect upon what happened. And so since Wednesday, there have been a lot of theories going around about why this happened, and I want to look at some of them, and because I think each of them has a little bit of kernel of truth to them, and I want to talk about what they mean. All right. So one of the first theories about why Donald Trump was elected has a lot to do with the fact that he appealed to Americans' racism and bigotry and intolerance. And we should not downplay the appeal of Trump's racism. It is a very potent force, and I think indeed there were a significant amount of Trump supporters for whom that message did resonate, especially the kinds of supporters that went to his campaign rallies, where we saw racism and we saw violence on primetime television. And we should not discount that. And going forward, we are going to have to make sure that we are ready to fight against that kind of hate. And organizations and campaigns that begin to rise up to promote that kind of hate, we need to be there to shut it down, to fight back. And more importantly also, or just as importantly, we need to be there to protect the people who are at the objects of those attacks and make sure that they're protected. However, I think that sometimes the racism can be overplayed a little bit as an element of why Trump was elected. Like I said, it's certainly there, but especially Hillary Clinton supporters, for instance, tend to promote that as the reason why. But the fact is, there are a lot of rural working people especially for whom Trump's economic populism appealed to them, especially in places like Michigan and Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, those states that essentially handed Trump the presidency. And what's interesting about Michigan and Wisconsin, for instance, when we think about the composition of these voters and who they are and why they were voting for Trump, or why they weren't voting for Clinton, it's important to remember in 2008 and 2012, both Michigan and Wisconsin voted for Obama in overwhelming numbers. So this notion that all of these people who voted for Trump were somehow voting because of his racist agenda, that these people had suddenly become racist between 2012 and 2016 is probably unlikely. I think instead what they were voting for, what appealed to them was his economic populism, his resistance to things like the Trans-Pacific Partnership, and his promise to bring jobs back to America. A lot of the people in that former Rust Belt region, a lot of rural workers are suffering. They've lost their jobs, they've seen their wages go down, and they're very scared about the future. And then the last thing that is important to remember, and maybe the most obvious reason why Trump won, and that is that Clinton lost. The Democrats and Clinton ran a terrible campaign. They offered no alternative to Trump's populism, and they presented themselves as what they are, and that is the establishment. The neoliberal establishment order is what the Democratic Party is. And I think that is finally encapsulated in Clinton's response to Trump's obviously ridiculous statement that we should make America great again. That's ridiculous. But Clinton's response to that was what? Clinton's response to that was, America is already great. And I can think of no greater tone-deaf response to that idea than to say America is already great. How can you say America is already great when when poverty rates are through the roof? When almost half of Americans are on the edge of poverty? When childhood poverty rates are higher than they've ever been? When we're coming out of one of the worst recessions in American history? When we have millions of people locked up in prisons for petty crimes? And black men and women and people of color and others being gunned down in the street by police every single day. So to say that America is already great and then expect to win the presidency, no one I can think of was more out of touch than Hillary Clinton. So one of the reasons that Trump won was a lot of people did not come out and they did not vote for Hillary Clinton because they're sick and tired of the establishment. And that is the consciousness that we're living in right now. That is the period that we're living in. People are rejecting the status quo. And people are hurting and they're rejecting the status quo. So I just want to sum up, I want to say that, so like I said, those theories offer some insights into why Donald Trump won. But there's something bigger going on here that is bigger than this election. You guys, I know, have been paying attention, and I know you've studied history. From the 1970s forward, real wages for workers have been going down dramatically, right? Standards of living for ordinary working people have been going down dramatically. Even as the cost of things, essential things like healthcare and education and transportation have been skyrocketing at a rate much higher than general inflation. And people are sick and tired of that same thing over and over again. And I think they were willing to give Obama a chance, and he didn't deliver. The Democratic Party did not deliver any changes that actually helped real working people. But here's the thing that's really important for us to remember. It's even bigger than that. And that is that the system isn't just broken in a way that we can fix it. The system is inherently flawed. The Democrats and the Republicans cannot deliver on the things that working people need for two reasons. One, because they are in the pockets of big business, right? The Democratic and Republican parties are funded by corporations and big business, and they do their bidding, competing against each other to see who can do it best. That's one reason. But the other reason is that even if they really wanted to deliver those changes, there's no way to do it. And that is because capitalism is in decline, right? We are living through yet another example of the decline of capitalism. Capitalism has managed to resurrect itself from death several times during the last century, but now we're seeing it again. We're seeing the decline of capitalism and its failure to deliver what people really need. And that is going to continue. And so the only way that we can really solve this problem is by, definitely we have to fight Trump, but we have to remember that we have to fight the monster that created Trump, right? And that is capitalism itself. So, and hopefully we'll talk about that more later when we talk about ways of going forward, all right? So I'll leave it at that. Kyle is going to talk a little bit about some ideas about how to get started thinking about going forward.